Hello. Well, this video is going to be about the simple past, but we're going to focus on the verb to be. So, when we have the verb to be in the simple past, we have two forms, we have was and were. So, was goes with I, he, she, it. So, I, he, she, it was, and you, we, they were. Those are the two forms, was or were. Here are some examples. So I was tired yesterday. He was a teacher. We were friends when we were younger. You were sad when you saw the movie. And that song was my favorite. So let's just remember that in the simple past, it's something that was true in the past, like happened in the past, but it finished in the past. So, for example, he was a teacher. That means that right now he is not a teacher, but in the past, he was a teacher in the past. So like we said, I, he, she, it was, you, we, they were. Now, let's see how they are structured. So the positive or affirmative sentences, we have an example. They were friends. So we can see that it starts with the subject, or like who we're talking about, then were or was, depending on the subject, and then here's like the complement. So negative is the example, she wasn't happy. So we have first the subject, then was or were not. Not is a negative, and then the complement here. And the question is, were they in the house? So we can see that with the question, you start with was or were, and then the subject, and then the complement. So just like we saw in negative, we use was not or wasn't, or were not or weren't. Wasn't and weren't are the contractions of was not or were not. So we can use whichever one. It just depends on the person. So since here it's she, it has to be was, not, or wasn't. So now here we have 4 exercises, and I want you to fill them in with the correct form of the verb to be. So here, where it says not, it has to be negative. So I'm going to give you a few seconds. Okay, so let's start answering them. It says, we students. When we have we, which one do we have to use? We have to use was or were. We was or we were. We have to use we were. We goes with were. We were students. Then the second exercise says, I sick, and we have to make it negative because it says not. So it would be was not or wasn't sick. I was not sick or I wasn't sick. The third one says John late. So John, what person is John? John would be he. So when we have he, we have to use was. So it says John was late. And the fourth one says Phil and Mary hungry. And it says not, so it has to be negative. So Phil and Mary, they together are they. So when it's they, we have to use were. And since it's negative, it would be Phil and Mary were not hungry, or Phil and Mary weren't hungry, whichever one of those two. Now let's move on to something else. That is, there was and there were. So there was and there were is just like there is and there are. It just says that something exists in a place. So for example, when I was younger, there was a bunk bed in my room. A bunk bed, the ones that have like a bed on the bottom and the bed on top. So when I was younger, there was a bunk bed in my room. But there wasn't a computer. I didn't have one when I was younger. Then there were some toys, but there weren't any video games in my room. So here we can see that we use there was or there wasn't when it's singular, like there's only one. There was a bunk bed in my room, one, and there wasn't a computer. So computer's computer, one. But we use there were when it's plural, like a lot of them, like there were some toys, many toys. And well, not many, but like more than one. And there weren't any video games. Video games, plural. So we have to use weren't. And like we see, we just add the not to make it negative. Wasn't, weren't, or was not, were not. So that's how we use there was and there were. So something that like existed in the past. So another example would be in my kitchen, there were many cups, but there was an accident and they all broke. So something that there was and there were, something that like existed in the past and now it doesn't. That was there in the past. Just like these examples. So next we have some exercises. These exercises, there's 4, and you have to fill them in with was or were to make it there was or there were. And some of them too have to be negative. So I'm gonna give you a few seconds to answer them. Okay, so let's start answering them together. The first one says, there some books on the desk. So here, some books. This is like more than one. So like 2, 3. So when we have more than one, we have to use were. When it's plural, we have to use were. So there were some books on the desk. Then let's do this one. There a shoe on the floor. So a shoe, one shoe. When we have one, we have to use was. So it's there was a shoe on the floor. This one, there any pencils in the bag? Not. So we have to make it negative. Pencils, pencils. That's plural. Pencils, plural. 2, 3, 4 pencils. So we have to use were and not. So we have to be It has to be there weren't any pencils in the bag. And the last one, there a TV in the room. It says not, so it has to be negative. A TV, one TV. So not. There was not a TV in the room, or there wasn't a TV in the room. So that's it for this video. I hope that the explanation was helpful for you. And yeah, that's it. Bye.